Move now to the east of the continent, to Kenya, to have a look at how the market has been doing there. And if we look at the NEC yesterday, 1% down to 4573, and stocks fell for a third day in a row, and the main drag down there, if you like, was East African breweries. It's a big stock, and therefore when a big stock like that trades down or up, it does affect the market more than, say, in Johannesburg, where the market is bigger with more companies. But and the shilling was down 0.3% there, so two drops there on the two indicators that we look at. Let's go to Kenya now for the market update from there, and it's Samuel Gichohi, who is Head of Business Development at NIC Securities. Morning, Samuel. Let's start with that EABL, East African Breweries, beginning the week on a low. Pressure began selling that share on Friday and followed through into yesterday.
Well, yes, they had quite a bit of pressure on their top line, and that really affected the company's performance. We saw, I think, a 13% increase in production costs, 221% in finance costs as they took on more debt to take up controlling stake in Kenya Breweries Limited, and so that really hit them. And I think the fact that they also brought down their dividends, and considering the fact that Kenya's investors are very, very dividend oriented, and that means that if a company cuts the dividend, which they brought down by about 18%, will definitely have a negative effect on the stock's price. And I think that was one of the main reasons for seeing that, that sellout. So I think EABL, going forward, obviously we do expect that, being a very defensive company and being one of the the biggest on the market, will definitely begin to see the advantages of those increased costs begin to hit their bottom line. But for now, we are seeing the effect on the market.
Yes, as you say, the dividend was 2 shillings 50, now down to 1 shillings 50. That's quite a big drop, as you say, for a market that is sensitive to dividends. Was this big finance charge, which sounds very big, was that a surprise to the market? Had they warned about it?
Well, they hadn't warned about it, but we did know that they had taken on more debt to acquire, I think, a 20% stake in Kenya Breweries Limited. They've been on an acquisition spree also in Tanzania, which definitely must have required quite a bit of financing, and therefore I think that that was largely expected. But I think most investors were buying into the regional expansion, and the expectation that the regional expansion will start to hit their top and bottom line, really. And I think that's going to happen going forward, considering that it's a capital intensive process, which obviously will start to pay dividends somewhere down the line.
Right, and let's look at the banking sector, where there's been continued activity. It's been popular with foreign investors in particular. Barclays there were down, or rather up 1.24%, National Bank up 2.59%, influence there on the market.
Well, I think Barclays announcing an 8% increase in profit was a bit of a disappointment. But the thing is, Barclays has not been growing that much in the last few years, and therefore we didn't expect anything out of the ordinary. I think what investors are seeing and are expecting is to see much more growth on the other banks, especially the locally owned, locally ran banks like Kenya Commercial Bank, which we have seen on a rally and is still super bullish in most analysts' projections. I think we are also looking at Cooperative Bank, which hasn't really been affected by the recent bullish turn on the market, and therefore we expect that if we do see very good results from that. And with Cooperative, it's just that they don't have that much of a float, or rather whatever is floated is owned by the cooperatives, and they don't trade very much, which might be an issue of liquidity on the market that has been pulling it down. And therefore the blocks that the foreign investors would want are not really available. But yes, the banking sector is now the point of focus. We expect that once KCB announces, Equity will announce soon after, or possibly on the same day, and therefore that is going to cause some excitement on the market.
interesting sector always in that economy. And then Safaricom, we always talk about that share. It's always worth talking about, but steady at the moment.
Well, yes, Safaricom has steadied. They have very good news coming out of the M-Shwari product, and that product has really been taken up very well by investors. And I think 8% of the M-Pesa subscribers have taken up M-Shwari, which means that you know, getting to about 3 billion in a very short period of time in deposits is an amazing change. We initially thought that most people would get on it because they would see the opportunity to borrow, but it is beginning to look like a savings tool, and that has really challenged the banking sector. And I believe that that's going forward, that is going to really bring in a lot of unbanked Kenyans onto the platform, and it's going to make banking services accessible, which is a great turn of events for the economy, especially in this telecommunications age. And I believe that Safaricom has taken the right path. They continue to do better than all their peers in terms of innovation and in terms of the prize war, which I think they have literally won. And so we are seeing a lot of foreign interest on that, and it is actually keeping the share price strong at 555, and we do expect it to hold at that point.